Hey everybody, welcome back. So, first thing on my to-do list is to trim my apple trees. I am by no means an expert, but I do know that trimming an apple tree, anything that is, any of the branches that are pointing inward need to be trimmed so that way everything grows out like a bushy kind of thing. And my only question a lot with this particular apple tree, it's a 5-in-1, so it's been grafted on 5 different kinds of apple trees onto one main trunk. So I'm going to be careful with this one just because I don't want to trim too much off of it. And actually the deer have relatively left this alone. My husband got me this tree, I don't know, 2 years ago, and it's growing really nicely. We had a problem with gypsy moths, as everyone in our area did, so I didn't trim this. I haven't actually trimmed this very much at all, only because the gypsy moths kind of annihilated everything, so I just wanted to let it just grow, do its thing, and I may even I put some rope to kind of train it to grow in a certain direction, so maybe I can start taking that off now. I really wanted to make sure that the main trunk was perfectly straight so that way it has a good head start. So I'm gonna just try to trim this one. Sorry. All right, I think I did okay. I guess I'm a little bit more on the conservative side here. I didn't want to trim too much, but just enough. So anything that was either really straight or going down, I trimmed off. Anything coming inward towards the middle, I trimmed off. Some of this stuff is too high for me to get to anyways, so I'll figure out what else I need to do. But at least anything that's crossing or touching, nothing's touching. So, I don't know. I think it looks okay. I don't know if you can see the sun is rising, so I pulled the post back because it's growing to the point where it's starting to like touch the fence. I mean, this is really just to keep the deer out, but I mean, the deer are tall enough to, I mean, this wasn't really growing out over the fence like this even last year, so I mean they haven't touched it yet, so I'm not really sure how big it needs to get before I can take the fence out, but well, we'll do the other two. Now these two we just put in last year, so I will clip these branches that are heading down towards the ground. I don't think I really have to trim much off of here. Like there's a couple that are touching or heading straight down. Maybe I will have to do more than I think. That one's done. I didn't have to do too much, but at least nothing's touching, nothing's heading straight inward. Anything that was pointing towards the ground is taken care of. And last but not least, this little guy. Honestly, I can't remember what they are. One of them's a Red Delicious and one of them's a Granny Smith, because those are my favorite. There. I didn't have to do too much on this one. I'm probably being very conservative, so some arborist is probably like, heck, half of that thing off. I know, but nothing's touching, nothing's facing inward. And I got this last year, so I don't know how old really they are when you buy them at the nursery. Depends on how big they are, but it was a pretty good sized tree when I got it, so I think they're good for now. So we'll move on to the asparagus. So we're gonna plant the asparagus. I'm gonna lay everything out in the beds first to see how many I can fit in each bed. I bought 50 bare roots. I've had some of these soaking for a while. These are a dormant plant, so someone grew them on their farm, dug them up, rinsed the soil off, and then let them go dormant. so that way they can package them and ship them. So when you get them, you soak them in water. I soak the other ones too, and then we'll plant them. So I laid them all out. Yeah, they're spaced pretty well apart. I just have to go around the grapevine. And so I think I need to dig a little bit more soil out because they need to be just a little bit lower. But I'm going to, here, I'll use this one. When I get down far enough, I'm going to spread them out like a mop head, like that kind of thing. And then I'm going to put soil, maybe that might not be too bad. Spread them out so they're all in different directions so that their roots can just grow. And then I'll bring some of the new garden soil and put it on top. So I'll just have to do it real slow so I don't disturb the roots. So I dug down and spread the roots out, and I'm just putting some of the garden soil neatly on top. So you don't want more than an inch or so of soil above the crown. This is the crown, so this is where the asparagus grows from. If it's too deep, then you could get like a crown, it'll rot. And you don't want that at all because it won't grow. And you don't want it too far above the soil because then it'll get sunburnt. So I'm just neatly going through and putting soil around it. And that way, if I need to come up a little higher, I can just pull the roots up a little bit. So I've already done a couple of these. And I tell you, the worms are coming out. It's so great. If you got worms in your garden, good for you. You're doing something right. So I'm just going to put this around here very neatly. Some of these have already, you can see they're already starting to sprout a little bit. They're white because they didn't really get a lot of sun, obviously, inside the package. So as I'm doing this, I can still see the crown here. You see that in there? Yeah. You can still see the crown because I want to put a hefty layer of garden soil on here. So pretty much once I just cover it, that's about an inch. And it'll be this one. This one's really small, so I might have to pull this up just a little bit. That way, hello. There's a worm in my garden soil. Guess what? Welcome home, little buddy. So I'll put the soil around it first. Then when I'm done with this, I'm going to water this in really, really well. So see, I can see this on the top. And if I just put a little bit over, that's about an inch. That's pretty good. So I'll just keep going through, fill the whole thing. So everything is watered in. I had to make sure that once you water it, the soil will settle a little bit, so I did have to put a little bit more on top of some of these other ones. But it watered in well. I put my elephant ears in because they will take a while to come up. And everything's watered and ready to go. So since I watered the asparagus in really well, I will probably water them in deep again tomorrow and then let them kind of go. It's going to rain towards the end of the week next week, so they should be fine. So there's a lot of controversy out there about planting asparagus and when you can cut from the asparagus and when you can't. When you buy them in the roots, like I did, they are actually at least a 1 or 2 year plant. So that means they've already been established. You've got the roots. If you were doing them from seed, like I had done in some previous videos, those are like these, they have the teeniest, tiniest roots. Those you don't want to cut. You're not going to be able to eat them anyways. If you saw some of my videos of what they looked like, they are so teeny tiny. These will start growing quite large quickly. So you can cut some of these, but the whole main purpose of the asparagus roots is that after you can cut little bits from each plant, and then you have to let it grow. And it's going to grow into this big giant fern. And the fern is what uses the sunlight, produces photosynthesis, feeds the plant, helps the plant grow really healthy. So in the first year that you plant the asparagus roots, you can cut some from them. Just don't overcut too much from each plant. So I'll be able to eat some asparagus from this year. I just won't eat a lot. And then next year, I could probably do whatever. I just need this year for them to get the roots established and have nice healthy plants. They're gonna be fed with chicken manure compost. They're gonna be fed with the garden soil that I just put in. They'll be fine. And I really wanted to focus more on things that myself and my family are going to eat. And I really like asparagus. We eat a lot of asparagus. So I'm going to I put 50 plants in here. So, and they're in a spot that I don't have to worry about touching them. The spot that I have previously is just not in a great spot. It's in the ground. It just doesn't work really well. So now that I've been in my house 8 years and have planted asparagus in many different places, I hopefully now have a home for them. So asparagus is a perennial. So that means you cut it, you let it grow, it overwinters, and it comes back up the next year. So what I generally do is once I cut what I want from it and I eat it, and I let the plant grow as a big giant fern, then throughout the year I just let it stay there. If you have a male and a female plant, I can go into a little bit more depth on that at some point. It'll throw some seeds out. You can get the seeds out and you can plant them. And that's what I did on a very, very previous video, because that was really, really exciting. But then I just leave the ferns on the plant and let it overwinter like that. So I'll cut everything down in the spring. So this would be the time that I start cutting stuff down. Just like I did with the other plants, I left them in there so that way if there was anything that was gonna compost down, it could compost. But it also puts a layer of, it like helps insulate the ground. Granted, I put the leaves over top to help insulate between the snow and the soil, because I don't want to lose the nutrients that I'm putting in the soil right now, because the winters can be extremely harsh around here and it's very, very cold, very, very windy, and that really just, it's almost like the ground gets frostbitten, and then you lose that microbiome that's in the soil, and that's what you need to preserve almost. And if you do that, you'll have great success with your asparagus. So I just wanted to say, from my coop to yours, thank you for growing with me so I can grow with you.